Welcome to another great conversation on Think Radio Presents Think People.
Think People is made possible in part by support from the Community Foundation of the Gunnison Valley. To learn how you can make a difference, visit cfgv.org. The Community Foundation, we're here for good.
Become a Think Radio Presents partner at patreon.com, and you'll also get access to premium content you won't find anywhere else. Join us today. Steve Hughes is an actor, director, award-winning playwright, and theatrical educator. He's currently director of theater at Western Colorado University. Heather is an actor, director, and teaching artist. Between them, they both have lists of credits that would take way too much time away from the real fun, which is talking about what they're up to now, and why live theater remains such an important and powerful way to tell great stories, even today. Steve and Heather are busy organizing a staged reading of Tony Kushner's Angels in America. That's two shows that are simply the most groundbreaking American plays to come along for many decades. Let's get into it. Steve, Heather, thanks for joining me.
Our pleasure.
You.
Thanks for having us.
I kind of want to start with, why are you guys sitting here talking to me about this? Because really, honestly, let's be
fair
and honest. Theater is not exactly the way to get rich.
No.
Yes.
It's not really even the fast track for getting famous.
No.
So what the heck? Why are you in this business? Why do you care about this art form so much? Tell me your story.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I tell some of my students that playwriting is on the same level as blacksmithing in terms of professions that we still need in the world. That's not true. We still, of course, obviously we need playwriting. I think the answer for me about why theater is because I love the form, and especially in this day and age when we have all this technology and everything is starting to be catered to the individual, and you can, choose your own thing that you watch that can be uninterrupted by commercials, and you can watch things on your phone or your computer or your tablet or your whatever.
You can even make things and have your own YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Right. You can make
be real
videos
famous
and
in your
show
living
them
room.
to your family. But in this day and age, now to have theater still where people get together in the same room and they see something happening to them, that they're in the same space and they have to smell each other's body odor and they have to get in line for tickets and they have to be in a space together for 2 hours is so valuable. And it will never, I hope that will never go away, and that theater and live events won't ever be replaced by screens. I think they won't, because it's vital for humanity.
Well, I think so too. And for one thing, now that's the one place where you can go for storytelling entertainment and be certain that you're not seeing something that's computer generated,
Right.
Yeah.
photoshopped,
Right.
fake in some way. I mean, it's right there in front of you.
Yeah.
And so, Heather, what do you think? Why did you get in this business? What was it about this craft that enticed you so much?
Well, I think what enticed me initially is not what has kept me in it. Because when I was 8 and I was going to be a very famous movie star, yes, that
As
was
many 8-year-olds
as many
are.
8-year-olds, yes, and as an unbelievably awkward and uncomfortable, like middle school aged person, theater was this sort of salvation, because I was remarkably bad at sports and I was ridiculous looking, and or felt that very strongly that way, felt very different looking on a lot of levels. And I found theater, and theater was a place that said, well, come on in. Let's see who you are, and let's see what you can do, and you can kind of be whoever you want.
Yeah,
and
try on somebody else for a while.
Yeah, and that was a pretty amazing find for a young person who was like, "Oh, I'm bad at everything," or And then I think what has kept me in it is kind of what Steve was saying as well about. It is a miracle in this day and age and time we're in of technology and forward motion and fast-paced everything, that people pay money to sit together in the dark silently with strangers and hear a story. Exactly how we are as tiny kids. We're captivated by listening to each other and going on a journey that isn't ours but could be, or it might be, or, you know, the empathy that it cultivates and asks for and demands from actors and an audience is
Well, and that's
wild,
a great point as to, you know, you're talking about why it's important for audiences to have that experience. It's important for actors as well, because there's nobody that's going to jump up and yell, cut.
Nope, you
Let's
don't get another
try it
chance.
again. You know,
you
the
start
craft
and you go till the finish.
has
No matter what
to
happens.
be very highly honed in order to really make this work.
And you know, I just this just came out, so I've been talking about it a lot. But they did a study in London last year that said when audience members go to see a play, specifically a play, their heartbeats synchronize. So an audience
way.
a big, it can be huge. It could be 1,000 people, and if they're all watching the same play, at some point in that show, their heartbeats will all get in sync because they're laughing at the same time, gasping at the same time, crying at the same time, watching a slow scene, watching a fast scene, and then their heartbeats will remain in sync for 2 hours after the performance. So talk about an art form that brings people together.
Yeah, and demands us to be present and listening.
Well, there's a key, right? Because technology has enabled you to pick and choose your stories, and personalize your experience. There's no opportunity for anything remotely like that to happen, and so it's sort of the anti-community in some ways.
Yeah,
That's
right.
interesting.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? I mean, it has its benefits also. You know, a lot more people are able to, as we said, make content and connect with an audience. But still, there's something about being present.
Yeah. I just went to a theater workshop. I was at the American College Theater Festival with some students here from Western. And we went to Eugene, Oregon, which is where they're hosting it this year. And I went to some workshops. And there was a woman there who said she was talking about the difference between live theater and screens. And she said theater does not allow for the distance of screens because screens, watching something on a tablet or a phone, whatever, distances you from the thing that you're watching.
You have to face it. You have to deal with it. And at its best, I think people, while their hearts are all synced up, are also in huge conflict sometimes with each other and how they feel. In the best case scenarios, people leave the theater wanting to talk about what they saw and disagree, but that gives this great opportunity for a dialogue, you know, based around something that's kind of safe because it's a story. Even if it's a truthful story, we can talk about that in a different way than we can talk to someone with a very different view about what's happening on CNN or you know?
Well, absolutely. I mean, that's what story has the capacity to do, is to make really big ideas stand still for a couple hours, long enough to really absorb them. And you know, the history of theater is full of that. It's also a reason why it's important for there to be a bar or a coffee shop right outside the theater.
Oh, it's vital.
I totally agree.
It's so important.
But let's not forget the service that those people are providing.
God, yeah.
Well, so let's shift gears then just a little bit, because we actually wanted to talk about not just theater in general, but a pair of plays that you guys are setting out to produce, not fully on stage, but as a staged reading. And we're talking about Tony Kushner's Angels in America. Wow. Okay. And I found a quote from Tony that says, "As a playwright, you are a torturer of actors and of the audience as well. You inflict things on people." Do you agree with that? Do you think that's a good assessment of what a playwright does?
I do.
Yeah.
Yes. I think I was just saying last night, we were rehearsing Angels in America, and I had the fortune of seeing Tony Kushner speak last year at the University of Denver, and he said, "What do people come to the theater for?" And several people in the audience raised their hands, and they said, "Story. They want to see a story," which is always my thing. I try to tell my students, story, story, story. And he said, "No, it's not about story. It's about argument."
Well,
people want to come and see other people argue.
Because conflict is at the heart of story.
That's drama.
People love it.
Yeah.
Well, and so I was thinking about, of all the plays that that I've experienced Angels in America was a torture session in many, many ways.
Yeah,
it is.
it's a biggie.
Now, I have my reason for saying that. I would love to know why you agree with that.
Why I agree with this
Yeah,
statement.
this is difficult theater. This is not light entertainment at all.
No.
It plays a different role. Why do you think that's true?
I think it asks such an unbelievable amount certainly from the actors in terms of a fully produced production of this show is about as athletic an experience as it gets for those actors. And so the physicality of it alone, but physicality is easy compared to, I think, diving into emotional depths. And certainly for the actors, that's necessary. As with any acting, our job is to not just understand about someone, but feel from their perspective. And there are some really unlikable people in this show. So justifying that or understanding it to a place where you're not sitting in judgment. You can't play a character if you're judging them because people wouldn't do what they do if they were judging themselves the way that I might judge that person over there. So if I'm going to play that person, I have to for the term of the show, make sense of and then play that honestly. And there are some really unlikable people in this show. And then there are some of the most beautiful alive people in terms of emotional depths and compassion and the pain that we're meeting them in, the moment of sort of reckoning that we're meeting them in terms of their personal relationships, their health, the politics moving around them in the world. So it's not easy. We're not spending a couple of hours in Neverland or in a land that is beautiful. We're spending a few hours willingly in a very real life situation, and that is, not easy.
In a situation and a circumstance that doesn't have easy answers,
right? Like life.
And so, for those listeners who really have never encountered this play before, and this is an impossible task, I know. You could not summarize these plays in an elevator ride, right?
Hard.
But
we were talking about that, how we could do that.
Let's try, okay? What are if I'm reading the liner notes, what is this about?
So Tony Kushner wrote these two plays. They're separated into two plays because it's such an epic story. So he wrote them in the late 80s, and they were first produced in 1993 and 1994. And the play won both the Pulitzer Prize and the Tony Award in both of those years. And it's a play about the AIDS crisis in New York City in the
San Francisco.
No, it's in New York City. Because they all
I knew this would happen.
Sorry. Nope. That's totally fine. I was thinking, nope. There's another part about, sorry.
And it doesn't even,
Heaven is a place much like San Francisco.
I got myself
right.
We were spending a lot of time on that last night. Sorry about that.
And look, here's a good point though. It doesn't matter. In the 80s,
it doesn't
AIDS crisis,
matter.
you could have picked any city in America, and the story would be the same.
Yep, but he's correct. The play takes place in New York City.
Yeah, it centers around the plot itself centers around two couples. There's a gay couple named Lewis and Pryor, and at the very beginning of the play, Pryor discovers that he has HIV, and then Lewis struggles with staying with him or leaving him. And then there's another couple, a heterosexual couple, Joe and Harper, and Joe is a Mormon Republican lawyer, and his wife, Harper, is addicted to Valium and has all these hallucinations. And Joe slowly starts to discover that he is gay and has been closeted all this time. And so they split up. And then Joe and Lewis meet each other and kind of get together while Pryor is dying and Harper is hallucinating and so
Lewis sort of abandons Pryor.
Lewis abandons Pryor, and then he as a kind of a liberal New York City gay man meets and kind of falls for a closeted gay Mormon Republican lawyer.
No conflict there.
Yeah, and Joe's mentor is Roy Cohn. who is this kind of evil lawyer.
Who's a very, very real person.
Who's a real
from history.
A very bold choice for Kushner to make.
Very.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Right?
Absolutely. And he, you can talk about his connection to the Rosenbergs.
Mm-hmm. And we don't want to give away too much of what happens in this play, but Roy Cohn was the right hand of Joe McCarthy, and had Ethel and Julius Rosenberg executed in the electric chair for accusing them of being spies. And so Ethel Rosenberg, the ghost of Ethel Rosenberg, we meet her in this journey while Roy is dying. And Roy, I think it's worth saying that Roy Cohn is considered one of the most sort of, I say evil. I mean, he was a very evil person in terms of sort of the way he moved through the world. And he was the mentor of our current president.
Yeah, so history has not smiled on Roy
No.
Cohn.
And he has not smiled upon history either. He is quite a human.
And so this play was written in the late 80s and was performed in the early 90s, and Tony Kushner was saying very specific things about a specific time and place, and yet it's so relevant today because the main bad guy of this play is Roy Cohn, who is Donald Trump's mentor.
Well, and because this play really isn't about AIDS.
No.
It's not about sexual identity.
No.
It's about repression.
Yeah.
Generic, fill in the blanks repression.
Yeah.
Because I think of Harper's character, not really, she's touched by these other issues, but that's not her personal struggle.
Right.
And so it seems to me, and there is a question in this, for all the progress we've made, and we have, okay, this play came out at a time when we hadn't. Try to capture for us, in your opinion, the importance of this play, the ground that it broke, the doors that it opened, and why that was true.
I think there are so many answers to that. The first thing that popped into my mind was representation. We were able to meet people and get to know people in this very heightened moment of their existence who weren't often, or wouldn't you say, represented on stage, gay couples, and that's not what the play's about, right? It's about relationships, but it's certainly not. This is a play about being gay. This is a play about being humans, and repression, I think, is a great way to put it, and secrets, and what happens to someone when they don't live truthfully. And I think that applies to almost every character in this play. And until they do, are willing to, get brave enough, get pissed off enough that they can't do anything but, they are stuck. And I think that brutal honesty, because I personally think that applies to all human beings, no matter who you are, where you are, what you're doing.
We're all dealing with something.
We're all dealing with something, and we all want to be happy, and we all want to be alive, right, and moving forward and in our lives 100%, and that's hard. And I think that the doors it opened in terms of dialogue and what can happen in a theater and what that can move around in people and the kind of conversations and honesty and picketing and rioting and all of the stuff that it's brought up, that theater is for that, but I think it also gave a face and a humanity to a lot of people that aren't often credited with being as alive and part of this world as they are and always have been.
Well, again, that's the power of story.
Yeah.
We can categorize each other.
Sure. And we can other each other. Right. You're that, so I don't have to, I'm not that, and you're that.
I don't have to understand it.
Nope.
I just see that label, and that's it.
Yeah, but if I get to know you, I can't do that anymore.
The story is to put a human face.
Yeah.
And to give me a character that I can relate to. Yeah. Although I will say in this story, that's hard. That's hard work, relating to some of these people.
And we don't want to.
Because everybody's flawed.
Yeah, really
even
flawed.
even the character of the angel in this play is a character. Like, she is going through something. She's not just like an all-knowing, all-seeing. She enters the story and has a conflict.
Yeah.
She's trying to achieve something, and she's got an obstacle, and she's figuring out her way through it, and she's flawed too. And so it's
she's mad, and
he goes beyond just giving, like you just said, a human face to everything, because that she's not human, but she's a character. So one could identify with the angel and see this play and go, oh yeah, I've been through a similar struggle that angel's been through.
Yeah.
I get you, angel.
Well, and the idea that there really isn't such a thing as pure good or pure evil.
That's right.
That we're humans. It's all mixed up together. And why do you think it's valuable for society to embrace that idea?
Oh my God! I mean, I think we just touched on it earlier, but that's not life is not black and white
Ever.
And there can be fun stories that have clear bad guys and clear good guys.
Sure.
And that's certainly a genre of storytelling. But this is not that. So it is to understand that even the bad guy, I mean, Roy Cohn, who we have described as an evil person, is a fun character in the play. He's funny. He's charming. We feel for him because he's going through he's struggling with a disease, and so it's to put a more textured, colored layer onto everybody and everything.
Well, let me throw out a phrase that I've started to use. I occasionally teach workshops on story. And when we get to the part of story structure where we would normally talk about an antagonist, right? You say the word antagonist, and you're thinking, okay, this is the person we're going to fight to the death, right? This is what we have to overcome. And I've started using a phrase that I would love to hear your opinion on. Oppositely charged protagonist.
Great.
That's great.
Yeah.
Because it takes away the temptation to say, you're bad, we're good over here, that's how we're going to approach things. It forces me to come over here and say, wait. Oppositely charged protagonist, what does that mean? It means that even somebody like Roy Cohn has their reasons.
Yep.
Really good reasons.
Yeah.
Inside their story.
Well, we're all a collection of our experiences, so we behave according to what those have taught us, for better or for worse. All of us.
Right.
And
we can change our mind, but that's hard. Yeah.
We're kind of in the age now of the anti-hero. In terms of, when we think about when we talk about, as I do a lot, the golden age of television that we're living in right now, a lot of those people are anti-heroes. So Tony Soprano is an anti-hero. Walter White from Breaking Bad is an anti-hero.
Big time.
I can't remember what the character's name, but Mary Louise Parker in Weeds is an anti-hero.
Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Julia Louis-Dreyfus in Vice is an anti-hero.
Veep.
Sorry, yeah.
All the
Veep.
V's.
And, and you're right, that's a trend. Do you think that is a sign that storytellers are maturing past this tendency to do either or?
It's definitely an evolution of storytelling. That we're getting a little more sophisticated in the stories that we tell. Yeah, which again, there's still room for there's still room for bad guys, good guys, and nice clean beginning, middles, and ends with morals. But there's other kinds of stories to be told too.
But even then, it's starting to become more and more unsatisfying.
Sure.
Yeah.
When I go and I'm presented with an antagonist, a bad guy who is just ridiculously, mindlessly bad. We have no idea why they would want to do what they do.
Right.
That's boring.
Yeah. It is.
The newest version of The Grinch, the Grinch movie that we took our 3-year-old to see The Grinch, and it gives a very nuanced psychological reasoning for why the Grinch does what he does.
And her takeaway from that, our 3-year-old, was he felt sad because he was lonely. We were like, this is beautiful. And yes, he did. And that's certainly not what we in the late 70s, early 80s were leaning into. I don't remember thinking like the Grinch is that way because of his
no.
But how great, and true.
Well, because, and here's, we're coming full circle around to why theater and storytelling can be so powerfully important to a society where we find ourselves today. Mm-hmm. Because you say the word Trump to some people and you get that reaction. It's like, nope. Well, on the other side of the fence, you say the word Bernie Sanders to some people and you get exactly the same reaction. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Storytelling has the potential to teach us how to not do that. Mm-hmm. In what ways, trying to come back to the topic at hand of Tony Kushner, Angels in America, in what ways do you feel that those plays taught you? And I'm looking at Heather because you've actually acted in this show.
Yeah.
What did you learn as a result of having a story challenge you this deeply?
So we did this play in 1996 in 2 parts at Western, what was then Western State College of Colorado. Mm-hmm. And we had this incredible director, Ellen Sealing, who was only here for my 4 years of college, which feels like the gift of my lifetime, one of them. And she brought the play to us, and we were all 19 to 22 years old. And we were, to say that we were green is a vast understatement. And she trusted us with this play. We were one of the first colleges to do the play at all. We were the very first college to do both parts, and that was by permission of Tony Kushner, who had befriended Ellen. And they had started, we have this email relationship, and we have the best email where they both talk about, is this even working? Because email was still such a new sort of thing. Right? So she had invited him to come, and he couldn't make it, but he, along with his best regards and best wishes and all of that lovely stuff, gave us permission to be the first college to do the second show as well. So that was huge. I don't think and I've been talking with my class and my castmates from that time in the last few months about this. I know we did not have any idea of the gravity of what we were being handed and the sort of gift and the responsibility. And that is what at least my great takeaway was from being part of that production with Ellen at the helm, who was just this incredible person and director and leader, and she loved this play so much, and she loved us, and there we all were making this thing together. And we learned to be really, as actors, we learned a lot about being actors and taking on something like that, and how vital it is to tell the truth at all times when you're up there. And it was the first thing she called out. We had this great rehearsal where I felt like I was yelling and screaming and really loud. So that was very good acting, obviously. And I remember her looking at me at the end with this huge, big smile across her face. She said, "Oh, I just didn't believe any of that." And I was like, oh my God. But how fabulous, and so we learned all of those things. But I think more importantly, we got a lot of pushback from the community, not entirely. That's one of the things that happened. We had protesters and picketers and people that were really angry that we were doing this. Yeah. And then we also, in a almost broader, bigger sense, had this unbelievable, unprecedented support of this city and this campus, where people, teachers, professors wrote it into their curriculum. It became required watching for classes, and it became this incredible source of dialogue. And they had us as actors come into the classroom and talk to classes about being in the show. And people were really lovely, and people were really angry and disgusted. So it taught me what the unbelievable power of storytelling is. And when people are willing to get together in a space and disagree with each other and listen, you can't walk away from that. You might not change your mind, and that's fine. You don't have to.
No, but you've participated in something very,
and you've heard
very
someone
important.
else talk. And the conversations at the talkbacks and in the classrooms that happened around that were it remains one of the most, that was 23 years ago, and it remains one of the most important, gratifying, and alive moments of
Yeah.
my entire acting life was being part of that and
Yeah.
and feeling like, oh, this isn't just 2 hours in a theater. This is
It's something else.
this is something else.
So,
to
Steve,
people. Yeah.
describe, what is the something else
Yeah.
here, and why now? Why are you guys bringing this together now?
You know, I think our first impetus for why we were doing it now is because when I was thinking about what this school year's theater season would be, that was 2018, which was the 25th anniversary of Angels in America. So I thought this is one of the greatest plays of all time, and it's the 25th anniversary. So let's do it. Let's do it at Western. And I think. It's still so relevant just on all of the things that we've been talking about. This kind of core level of what storytelling does to us is important. But then specifically, the play is political without being political as we think of it now.
Yeah, without being propaganda in one direction or another.
It is absolutely not propaganda. It's not a play for liberal people. And it is not a play for conservative people. It is political in that it mentions Reagan and Roy Cohn and has people who are involved in government and talks about laws. But it is not. I think Tony Kushner does a great job of not being dogmatic about you should be liberal.
Right.
It just presents political ideas. And like every good piece of theater, it raises questions but doesn't give you answers, right? We want our best stories to ask us questions but not give us the answers to them. We want the audience to get up while their heartbeats are in sync and go away and think about those questions.
Yeah, well, if there is an answer provided by this kind of theater, it's to know yourself. You know, if it points you in any direction at all, it's to become that kind of citizen that is not as likely to draw hard lines in the sand.
And it's to figure out who you are and be that person.
And what role you can play in bringing that conversation together.
Yeah.
So when will this happen?
This is happening a week from this Saturday, on Saturday, March 9th.
Okay.
And we're doing both parts in one day. So we're doing part 1 at 2 p.m., and it's about 2 hours, and then we'll have a dinner break. And then we're doing part 2 at 7 p.m., which is also about 2 hours long.
So, make sure you get a good night's sleep.
We'll
the
have
night
coffee.
before.
We're gonna have a coffee bar.
We're gonna have a coffee bar.
There's going to be anybody who buys a ticket can take that and get a discounted meal at Mario's
Or the
dive.
At the break in between.
All right. Well, if you're lucky enough to hear this in time, and if you're lucky enough to live nearby,
or want to travel.
We should mention also that the way that we're doing this and the way that we conceived of it is that the actors who make up the cast of this reading are half Western students. We also have a couple faculty members, and then we also have professional actors that we're bringing in from Denver. And the reading itself is going to be directed by our friend Allison Watrous, who's the director of education at the Denver Center for the Performing Arts. So it's a mix of professionals and students, which is
that by itself would be fun to watch.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great. We've been rehearsing here we will have rehearsed a couple of weeks
with just the students,
and then when the out-of-town actors arrive, we'll have an 8-hour rehearsal Friday the 8th, and then we do the thing on the 9th.
I find it interesting that having been a student in this position where you had to actually get up and make this thing come to life, are you finding yourself now sort of patting them on the hand and saying, it's okay?
Oh, well, I think I'm only realizing in the last, however many years, what a massive thing this is to tackle. Yeah. And then revisiting it with them, they are killing it. I mean, they're really diving in, and they're brave, and they're open, and they're asking questions, and they're doing a really great job. And I remember myself at 19, and I have no idea how this happened.
Well,
how we did this.
I was there and saw that show, and I can tell you that somehow it did.
It somehow did.
Because it was a very memorable performance and memorable staging of these plays.
Great.
Heather, Steve, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Alan.
And thanks for bringing Angels in America.
Our pleasure.
into the open again.
Yes.
Yeah,
right.
we're really happy about it.
Think Radio Presents is a production of Alan Morris Media. The show's producer is Isa Forrest. Associate producer, Aaron Lewis.
Thanks for listening. Become a Think Radio Presents partner at patreon.com, and you'll also get access to premium content you won't find anywhere else. To leave a comment on today's show or to suggest a great story for a future episode, visit thinkradiopresents.com. Tune in next week for another great conversation on Think Radio Presents Think People.